morning everybody. Well, today's a slightly different video from my normal ones, and health and safety is something that I'm probably not renowned for since I was in the building trade, and I've done some crazy things in the past, but there are things that we need to know when we go fishing, and there's personal health and safety, but there's also care for your fish and care for the environment. And I just want to go through, first of all, we do go fishing for the pleasure of fishing, but we don't want to harm the fish, we don't want to harm the environment, and we don't want to harm ourselves. So there's a few things that we've really got to look out for, and a lot of it's self-explanatory, but I think we just need to be reminded every now and again. So it just reminds you when you're on your bank what you shouldn't be doing. So first of all, when we're fishing, we always use a barbless hook, and I tend to use these ready tied hooks nowadays, so that I can put a new hook length on whenever I need to. Keep nets. We don't want to use keep nets because the fish need lots of oxygen, especially in the summer months when you're catching lots of fish. They need lots of oxygen, so they need to be able to swim around freely. So match anglers obviously have to use keep nets, but they make sure they use a keep net that's over 3 meters long, and they push them right out into the swim, so they've got plenty of room to move around. And we need to get them out the water quickly, weigh them in quickly, and put them back as quick as we can. It's not ideal for fish, and that's why I would only allow keep nets to be used for competition anglers. Now, for those of you who have not been fishing a lot before, this is a landing net, and for the kids, what you don't do with a landing net is do that to try and catch a fish, because you'll never ever catch one, okay? What you will do though is you'll scare the fish all over the place, and you won't catch one on a rod and line either. So the landing net is a really handy tool, and that is for catching your fish with. Now when you've got the fish to the surface of the water, you put your landing net in it, and you just bring your finger in the net underneath the fish and lift the fish out of the water with it. And the reason why you do this is this: if you've got a fish of, say, of a weight of a pound or whatever, when it's in the water itself supports it like it would do you if you're sitting in a swimming pool. But if you then tried to lift yourself or that fish out of the water by a hook, then what you're going to end up doing is going to either rip the hook out of the fish's mouth, you might even take the lip off of the fish, or you could break your line. Either way, you're going to end up losing your fish, and you're going to damage the fish. So if you've got a decent sized fish, net under the water, keep the line tight and just lift him out of the water. And when you've got him out of the water, that's the place to unhook him. Unhook him under there, because he's going to wriggle and he's going to drop. You don't want to drop him on the floor, you don't want to drop him on the concrete, you're going to drop him back into the net. So a landing net is really useful. And again, if you're going to photograph a fish, don't pick him up out the landing net and hold it up here, up against your jumper. You're going to take all the slime off of the fish, which protects him, and you're going to end up dropping him on the ground. What you're going to do, you want to kneel down on the grass with your fish in the landing net. You haven't taken the fish out of the landing net yet, and then you can pick him up over the landing net and just hold him like that, and show him back in the landing net, bosh, straight back in the water. So that way the fish is out of the water for as least time as possible, and importantly, it doesn't get dropped on his head. I see so many kids getting so excited about catching a fish, and they end up dropping them and don't do them a lot of good at all. So think about that. Now, unattended rods. I see people all the time fishing away and leaving their rod down like that, okay? And they walk off and see their mate and everything. They come back, they go, "Where's my rod gone? Where's my rod gone?" Well, simple. If you're going to leave your rod like that and you get a big fish, they will pull a rod in. Even a small little tench like that can pull your rod in. You know, it's it's not too difficult. So if you're going to leave your rod at any time, make sure you're close enough to see what's going on, but make sure it's in a rod rest like that, so it can't get pulled into the water. Okay, so if you have to leave your rod unattended, then do that. But best thing to do is reel it in, hook your hook up, take your bait off, and I'm going to go on to that one later on. Take your bait off, and leave your rod to one side until you're ready for fishing again. Now, again, I see people catching a fish and the fish is deep hooked. They can't get the hook out. Now, what you need to do is learn how to use the disgorger, and there's another little video on our website you can see on how to use a disgorger properly. You need to have a disgorger with you all the time. So when you're fishing, two things you need to have with you is you need a disgorger and you need a landing net. That way you can put the fish in the landing net and disgorge. You're not going to be running around like a headless chicken trying to find a disgorger and the fish laying on the bank while you're doing it because you haven't got a landing net. So make sure you get everything around you to start with. And the next thing I need to tell you is if you're fishing, occasionally you're going to get hooked on the bottom, or you're going to catch a big fish and you're going to lose your hook. Okay, so you're only going to lose your hook if your hook length is lighter than your main line. So if you're using a 5 pounds main line, then you might want to use a 2 or 3 pounds hook length. So if you hook the bottom, all you're going to do is lose your hook length, okay? And you're not going to lose masses and masses of line, have to reset all your tackle up, put a new float on, and everything else like that. So always remember, whatever you're doing, any type of fishing you're ever going to do, your hook length has always got to be of a lighter breaking strain than your main line, okay? And that protects the fish, because if a fish breaks you and it swims off with a hook length, and it's a barbless hook, as I said before, the chances are that the fish will reject that barbless hook. It's not very often that I'll catch a fish that's got a hook in it and find that it's a barbless hook. Most times that I find I catch a fish, it's already got a hook left in it where it's broken somebody, it's actually a barbed hook. So it just goes to show what actually happens. They do reject a barbless hook if you use a barbless hook. So, getting on to the environment and touching base with what I've said before, if you do end up with a bit of line like this, don't just sling it on the bank. We go around all year picking up bits of line off the bank like this, and birds get tied up in it, okay? So you've got to take it home, but before you take it home, just roll it up into a little ball like that around your fingers, okay? And cut it up into little bits, okay? Cut it up to little bits. Now if you do that and take it away, when it goes into the bin, if it doesn't get burned or incinerated and it ends up on a rubbish site somewhere, the birds aren't going to catch it on a rubbish site somewhere. So as soon as you cut that up into little 2-inch strips, then that line's no longer a problem. Now, should I tell you about rubbish? I suppose I've got to, because I'm forever picking up tins, lids off of tins of spam and lids off of tins of corn, Coke cans thrown in the bushes, beer bottles in the bushes. You know, I really don't need to tell people about this. You know, you manage to bring a bottle of beer or a can of corn to the bank with you, just put it back in your box and take it home with you at the end of the day. It's going to be a lot lighter because you consumed what's in it to start with. So it's not going to be a major issue. But it is a major issue if we've got to go around collecting it and the wildlife gets entangled in it. Another issue, okay, people decide they want to stop and have a little walk around the bank to see their friends and that, and they pull their rig out and they lay it on the bank. They forget to take their bait off the hook, okay? Now, okay, they're not going to catch a fish because it's not in the water, but they will catch a bird. And I've seen it happen on numerous occasions. People have left their bait on the hook and they've come back and there is a dead bird, right, that's taken its bait down and it's killed the bird. There's a dead bird laying on the bank. Now, people don't think. They're not being irresponsible, they just don't think. And I'm just telling you, think about this. You know, you can, it cause yourself a lot of distress to think that you've actually killed a bird. And obviously you're going to cause a lot more distress to the bird itself. But just take your bait off when you're finished fishing. So that can't possibly happen. So we removed the bait. We haven't thrown any rubbish in the bushes, and we cut up all our bits of line. And the only other thing I need to tell you about the environment is if you come to the bank with loads of bait, loads of maggots, loads of ground bait and bread and all sorts of stuff, and at the end of the day you go, well, I haven't caught a lot today, let's throw it all in. You throw it all in the water. Now if the fish ain't been eating the bait, what's going to happen? It's going to go green and mouldy on the bottom. It's going to create loads of bacteria. The bacteria is going to take all the oxygen out of the water, end up killing the fish. So it's going to absolutely ruin your fishery. So take your bait home, put it in the freezer and bring it out next time. It's going to save you money, okay? Don't leave it on the bank for the rats to eat and then complain that there's loads of rats running around the lakes, okay? Take it home. Same way as you brought it, in the container what you brought it in, take it home with you, stick it in the freezer, okay? If you really have got a problem and you don't want to take the bait home, leave it outside our tackle shop or with the fishery owner and ask him to dispose of it for you. But don't throw it in the water and don't leave it on the bank. It really does help the environment a huge amount. Now, okay, so personal safety. I've touched on a bit about using a lighter hook length so that if you catch a big fish, if you do break off, all you're going to do is lose your hook length and the fish doesn't get hurt. But I see people doing this, and I've actually hooked the bottom here. Occasionally you're going to hook the bottom, you know, and I see people doing all this lark, and all of a sudden it comes free and the lead go whoosh behind them. Now there could be someone standing behind them, they're going to get it right between the eyes, a lump of lead between their eyes, or even worse still, I see people doing this and putting the rod towards them, putting it like this towards them, so it's right in line with between the eyes. So if that lead all of a sudden comes free, it could knock you out. I've seen guys doing this with their hand and actually put a float through their thumb. Right, the top of the float will act like a dart, so it'll go through the thumb. So don't ever, if you're caught up, don't ever point the line towards you or towards anybody else. Now what I always do is put my landing net over the top of the line like that, and then I can pull and it's come loose, right? Nothing's gone flying anywhere. The rod's there, and all I've done is lost my hook length. There's my hook length, it's gone off. So all I need to do now is get another hook out of a packet, and I've shown you how to do this on another video, but I might as well show you now. Always keep your finger between that when you're unravelling it, otherwise it's going to end up in a knot every time. There you go. There's a hook through the loop. Oh, oh. Best if you wear glasses. See, this has been rehearsed, can't we? Through that loop like that. And if you've got good eyes, you ought to be fishing again. There you go. So now we're up and rallying, and we're fishing again. So when you've finished, just hook it on your ring or something like that. Reel it up, and then you can leave your line rod down there, and that's nice and safe. Nothing's going to get tied up in it. And then again, there's a couple of other little bits you need to remember when you're fishing. When you're casting, always look behind you. Make sure you're not going to take somebody's eye out with your line. Okay, so just be aware that people do come up behind you sometimes when you're fishing. So when you're casting like that, you don't necessarily have to cast like that all the time. With a float, you can normally cast underhand. But if you like that, always make sure that you're not going to hurt anybody behind you. And if you're going to go down to a river or somewhere a little bit remote, tell people where you're going, because you know accidents do happen, and it's as well just to make sure that people know exactly where you're going when you go fishing. And that's about it. So hope I haven't bored you too much, but there's a few things that perhaps just to remind you need to know when you're going out fishing. Thanks very much. Bye bye.